With the Wake Up Newscast, I'm all about honoring and amplifying credible local journalism. Every story in every newscast credits and links back to the original source. Want to go deeper into any story? Just scroll down into the show notes to find the hyperlinked headlines. Okay, on with today's news. Wake up, Asheville! I'm Matt Peiken. I hope you all stayed dry yesterday. This is your local newscast for Tuesday, March 17th. Mission Hospital has hired an outside consultant and pledged sweeping changes after its third immediate jeopardy finding in less than 2 years. While the latest sanction was lifted February 9th, the hospital remains out of compliance with some federal standards and has until July 29th to fix them or risk losing Medicaid and Medicare payments. In a plan approved by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, administrators said they'll reevaluate the capacity and competency of leaders and staff, review blood transfusion policies, and address emergency department safety. The plan follows incidents including a patient death and a measles exposure. Read more about this in the Asheville Watchdog. Western North Carolina Congressman Chuck Edwards says he's prepared to back President Trump's approach to the war in Iran, including potential troops on the ground. Edwards says he'll support whatever the president and his military advisors recommend and doesn't expect Congress will need to declare war, calling the mission targeted and limited. At home, Edwards says FEMA needs structural reform and faster reimbursements to local governments and utilities still recovering from Helene. He recently appealed at the White House to speed funding. Edwards also defended Trump's so-called One Big Beautiful Bill, saying it strengthens border security and energy production. You can read about this in the Citizen Times. Democratic congressional candidate Jamie Ager says his campaign is focused first on Helene recovery. He calls the federal response a failure and says the region has received less than 15% of the funding it needs. Contrasting Edwards' positions, Ager says he also wants greater congressional oversight of immigration and customs enforcement and border patrol operations, which he labeled as, quote, disheartening and inconsistent with our Constitution. He also says Congress should hold a vote on the war with Iran and that he doesn't support boots on the ground. The last Democrat to win the district was former NFL quarterback and Bryson City native Heath Shuler in 2006. Read more about this in the Citizen Times. If you've seen smoke across western North Carolina, it may be intentional. The U.S. Forest Service has carried out 15 prescribed burns statewide in the past week, including 5 in western North Carolina since March 4th, totaling nearly 6,000 acres. Officials say controlled burns reduce wildfire risk by clearing undergrowth and protecting wildlife habitat, including for the near-threatened golden-winged warbler. But Hurricane Helene has complicated planning, leaving an estimated 190,000 acres of downed trees in Pisgah and Nantahala forests, raising the wildfire danger while limiting where controlled burns can happen safely. About 250 personnel are supporting this week's efforts. Read more about this at NC Local. And in an op-ed column for the Mountain Express, UNC Asheville Chancellor Kimberly Van Noort says the university is facing enrollment shifts, rising costs, and uncertainty in government funding, challenges shared by public universities nationwide. In response, the school is expanding its Access Asheville financial aid program to draw more out-of-state students, adding new degree programs tied to regional workforce needs, and investing in upgrades like a renovated performance auditorium at Lipinski Hall. Leaders are also exploring future uses for university-owned land, including the South Campus, to address housing shortages and attract investment. A campus advisory committee is reviewing long-term options. You can read Van Noort's commentary in the Mountain Express. As you can tell every time you listen to Wake Up, I draw all the content from the credible sources of journalism right in this city. But if I've messed up with anything like how to pronounce something, or you think there's just something more I need to know about a certain story, you can always drop me a line at editor@wakeupthenews.org. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next episode of Wake Up.